I just got back from seeing Captain America Brave New World, and I'm going to give you guys my spoiler free thoughts. Everything that I'm about to talk about is going to be spoiler free. Not going to try to talk about any big moments or anything like that. Kind of talk about some of the characters, maybe, and just things along the lines of that. So, first and foremost, I really did enjoy Captain America Brave New World. I thought that there was a lot of things going on in this movie, like a lot of things going on in this movie. But even though there was a lot going on, I think they still did a pretty solid job of tackling those aspects that they were trying to blend together. I don't think that it was done in the best way possible, but I do think that they still did a very good job with this movie, and I think that the majority of people will be able to check it out and have a good time with it. But I also feel like there's quite a bit of homework that you might need to do to kind of know what's going on here with this movie as well, which isn't a bad thing. But usually when people say, oh, I gotta do homework or whatever the case may be for this movie, usually that's not true, but in this case it is true. You do have to 100% like know a little bit about something, or else you're gonna feel at least a little left out in the movie. Like if you would ask me what is actual 100% must need watched whatever, I would tell you to watch The Incredible Hulk, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as well as Eternals. Those three I would say are probably more of a necessity to watch, with Eternals not being a full-blown necessity, but if you want to understand the world building that's going on, then you're going to want to watch Eternals. But for everybody, world building and lore isn't the thing that they go for when they go to the movies, so that's why I can understand why some people might not like this, because of the fact that this movie is fully built off of world building and lore. Like, that is what this movie is about. It's about extending the future of the MCU as well, while also wrapping up some of the loose ends that we've had from the past, which I think is dope, because probably whenever we get a new Hulk movie or a Hulk show or whatever may happen with Hulk next, especially with that, now that we have Scar, I feel like they don't want to have the baggage of the Incredible Hulk movie on them with that, because people want to know what happened with the leader, etc., etc., etc. So I think every single thing that people are always like, man, what happened to this? What happened to this? I think they've tried to take all of those things and weave them together and make a plot out of it. Did it work? Yes and no. I think it worked more than it didn't work. I had a solid time with the movie. I think that the fact that the movie was fun, because this is a fun movie in a lot of weird ways. It's not so, it's weird. It's not fun, but it's a fun movie. And I think that fun aspect actually hurts it a little bit more than anything. It makes it be like, oh, what's happening here? You know, that's kind of how it made me feel when I was watching the movie. It felt like the vibe and the tone were constantly clashing with each other, trying to figure out what type of movie this wanted to be. There were a lot of elements of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in this movie, and I feel like those elements did not need to be there. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was awesome because of what it was, and also because it was kind of a cliff note, a footnote on that journey of Sam Wilson really actually being Captain America. So now that we have him being Captain America, they tried to turn some of those aspects that some of those things that he was feeling in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they were still kind of here, which I understand they would be, but I feel like they were here a little bit too much. I feel like those elements they were trying to blend in together too often. Yo, welcome to the Super Fam. I appreciate you. I just feel like they were trying to blend in a little bit too much of everything at one time. But other than that, I really did have a good time. I hope I don't sound like I didn't have a good time, because I did. Like, I was intrigued. I was like really paying attention as well, which was another thing. I felt like this movie was one of those movies where if you're not really paying attention to what's going on, you're not going to understand what's happening. But they do the due diligence, I guess, of also walking you through what's happening if you haven't been paying attention, which I think is annoying for those who are paying attention. So it's a little bit of it's a little bit of a bittersweet type of vibe, to where I was like, as I'm watching it, of course it's like this spy thriller that they have going on. They have these spy vibes and all of that. But then as you're watching it and the tension is high, or it's a very emotional moment, they may crack a joke because they're trying to still have Sam Wilson be like the funny guy, which is okay, but it just doesn't work within the context of where they were trying to do it at. I feel like if this movie was more serious, like 100% of the time, it would be a lot better. I think they don't take this movie serious enough in a weird way, because there's some really serious things that happen. But it's just like we would be in a car with Sam or something, and then a song plays, and the song doesn't fit the tone of what's happening in the it's like he's just listening to music on the radio. See, though that can sometimes be a good element for storytelling, but in this case it just didn't work the same way, right? Like I don't know, there were so many things going on at once. There's just a lot of contrasting flavors. It's a little bittersweet. I don't think this movie is bad, but I also don't think this is like the best movie ever. That's why I can understand why some people are like, I don't like this movie, because if you were expecting it to just be like Captain America, Civil War, or The Winter Soldier, it's not too much like that, but at the same time it is. So it's so weird, because you kind of get a little bit of a whiplash scenario going on, because at least for me, anytime I was trying to talk about the thing that I didn't like in the movie, once I start really digging deeper into that point, I was like, actually, that's not bad. Like, it's not a bad thing that happened. It just threw me off for some reason. Like, things just threw me off in the movie. Again, like the some of the jokes, like my guy, like Joaquin in the movie, I don't want to hate on this actor, but my guy wasn't doing it for me the whole time. Like, towards the end, no, that kind of sounds bad, but that works though, because something happens and it changes his character. Like it changes the characters. It's just very different, and it's a good movie. But I want everybody to kind of, if you're gonna go watch the movie, go into it and not think about all the other things that people have said that are negative, because those things are very surface level. That's it. Like the things that I have an issue with in this movie are very surface level, outside of like the CGI, right? There is a couple moments where the CGI, it threw me off. I can't lie to you, it did. We have like a close-up moment of like Sam, and he's talking or something like that, and then because it's like a battleground behind him, it looks a little interesting. There are just but it's not throughout the entire movie. There's just certain elements or certain moments when that happens, and you're just like, ooh, okay. But it's not a big deal, because it's not a big deal. I don't know how else to say it. But I think if you look at this movie through a magnifying glass, you will find issues, but you will find issues with anything that you look at a magnifying glass through. So my rating for this movie is a solid 7.3 or 3.5, depending on how you do it. 7.3 out of 10, 7.3. Whoa! So my overall rating for this movie is a 7.3 out of 10, and then a 3.5 out of 5, depending on how you do your rating scale. I don't think that this movie is terrible. I think it's good. I think there's a lot of good elements. I think some things were just too on the nose, especially with this movie being the spy espionage thriller that it's kind of set out to be. I don't like when my spy espionage thrillers tell me exactly what's happening and fill me in on every point of what's going on. I want to figure it out. If I do figure it out, for sure, awesome. If I don't figure it out, give me those little other breadcrumbs to kind of piece the story together still, because that's what the spy espionage vibe is all about. And I feel like there are just moments where we get our hand held as the audience to be like, hey guys, so this is exactly what's happening in this movie right now. And that was not I wasn't a big fan of that thing when it happened. I'm not a fan of that in my spy movies specifically in my like spy thriller movies. It's not bad in other movies or other genres, because sometimes the audience does need to be caught up. But and when you look at this as Sam not trying to be a detective in the same manner, right? He's not being a detective, but he does want to find out what's going on. So when you put all these aspects together, you can still enjoy what's going on here. But again, if you look at it through a magnifying glass, you're always going to be able to find something that's wrong. I I don't like the things, and I said it again, I already said it, like the things that I had an issue with, when you deep dive into them, they make sense, they weave together in their own way. The way that I do feel though is like the creator of this movie maybe should have been the person that created the show, because I don't think it was. That's kind of one of my only things that I'm not a big fan of within Marvel, is I feel like maybe they change stuff a little too often like that. In my opinion, they should have took the same people that made the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and made this movie with them, because there's so much that they were trying to do from all these other movies and bring it together. I don't think that this creator of this show probably had too much of a say in what the plot of this movie, excuse me. I don't think the director of this movie had too much of a say in the plot that the movie has. Like, for example, like Tiamat being in it, and the adamantium stuff, and all these other plot threads that are going on. I don't necessarily think that those are the things that the writers like. That I think that this movie is kind of like, all right, let's tie some loose ends by with this movie as well. Let's use this movie to propel the future while also tying up the loose ends of the history of the past. And I think that it actually did do a good job of that. I can't lie. I think that it did do a good job of fleshing out the leader, giving us Thunderbolt Ross and letting us understand who he is as a character now. What's got him to the point that the sacrifices he's made, what's been going on with the government since all these other things are going on, how the Sokovia Accords have affected the MCU. Like, all of these things are answered in this movie. Like, it is heavy on the world building and the lore. But as I said, I think the world building and the lore came first in this movie rather than the story and the plot. And that's kind of a bad thing. It's not a terrible thing, because the movie is still good, but it's just kind of like, man, I think that if this movie could have actually been its own thing and not been trying to answer all these questions at once, I think it could have been even better. And of course, like the seriousness, it's just, there's so much balancing on this plate that it's just you're kind of, I think that they were kind of going like this when they were creating it. Like, they had that big ass platter and they were stacked, and they had a stack of cups on it, and they were just trying to teeter back and forth and make sure they don't fall every time there was another obstacle that arose and like was in their way when creating this movie. But I think all of the actors brought their shit to the table. Like, Harrison Ford was awesome as Thunderbolt Ross. He really was. Like, he was awesome. He was really, really good in that role. He just did a damn good job of bringing those things together and just letting it be known, like, who he is, like, who this guy is, bringing it in the old guy, like the old vibe of who played him before, but also bringing his new Thunderbolt Ross vibe into it as well. I really like the dynamic between him and Anthony Mackie also. I just didn't expect for him to have such a predominant role in the movie either, because he does have a pretty big role. Like, we don't only see him with Captain America, which I think is good. Like, he has his own moments. I think all the little side characters that they had were pretty solid as well. It was a good movie. I really liked Anthony Mackie. I think Anthony Mackie did a fantastic job, bro. I really do. I can't wait to see him again as Captain America, because this felt like what it was. Like, it felt like the beginning of something new, and I'm so excited to see where it goes, because it's good, bro. It's good. And the things that they have brought up and the things that can be implemented in the future is just too good, brother. I'm not gonna lie. So those are my overall thoughts and my overall thoughts and opinions of the movie. As I said, it's a solid 7.3 out of 10 or a 3.5 out of 5, depending on how you do your review scale. I enjoyed the movie more than I thought I would. But I will also say things bothered me in this movie more than I thought that they would as well, which is interesting. But yeah, like, I enjoyed it. Some things did bother me, but it's nothing too major. It's something that is like, once I look into it, once I think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm over that. Actually, I don't really have, like, my horse isn't in the race that deep for that one little thing. Like, is that what I went to this movie for? Don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, so that doesn't deter me, the fact that it was different. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. Let me know how you guys feel about it in the comment section down below. And now that is the end of the spoiler-free section of this stream. And now we are going to get into the full-blown spoilers, baby. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be nerding out about it. We're going to be answering all the questions that you guys might have about the movie and really deep diving into all of the stuff that's going on here.
If you guys would like to support Marvel Bros, all you gotta do is visit our website at www.marvelbros.com and buy some merch. Represent the superfan. Or you can join our Patreon to get early access to content, patron-only scoops, giveaways, private Q&As, and those sacred watch parties. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Excelsior.
On today's pop culture news update.